Mhm. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. Um, I'd like to commence the Parks, Arts, and Community Services meeting for today, the 24th of October. We'll start first with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Frager. Thank you. Let's move on to roll call.
Item 3, roll call. Chair Erickson.
Here.
Vice Chair McNabb.
Here.
Commissioner Ashendorf.
Here.
Commissioner DeSico.
Here.
Commissioner Fay.
Present.
Commissioner Frager.
Here.
Commissioner Rutherford.
Here.
The record will reflect that everyone on commission is present.
Thank you. Item number 4, approval of the minutes from the August 22nd meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to move adoption of the minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion from Ms. Ashendorf, second from Ms. Frager. Call for the question.
The motion carries 5-0 with Vice Chair McNabb abstaining.
Okay.
6-0, pardon me.
Thank you. Item number 5, public comments. To ensure fair and equal treatment of all those who appear before the Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission and to expedite city business, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes during public comments. The 3-minute majority rule may be extended for good cause by the chairperson or by majority of the commission. If you'd like to speak, please approach the podium now. Public comments on anything that is not at this time on the agenda.
A couple months ago, I emailed you, Sarah, I believe. I'm here tonight to express my concerns about Brentwood Park. The playground there is our local playground, and when we first visited the park, there was no seating structures for my 70-year-old mother. She was actually sitting on the ground there, and I emailed the Parks District, and Yvette Aguilera actually was extremely responsive. She got a picnic bench there. Then a couple days later, a 2.5-year-old little girl fell off the structure, the playground structure, which is designated for 5 to 12-year-olds. But if you look at the park on any given day, I just brought some pictures, so that's the structure fell off. It's only toddlers that play at this park, so it's always toddlers, and we were just wondering, my daughter was wondering if we could get some toddlers, but maybe some swings. The park has a lot of shade, and it's got a lot of space for that. And you see, the actual structure is in the sun, but there's this surrounding area that has a lot of shade, and I'll show that too. If we can just get some swings there, I think we've had a lot of happy campers. We're going to try to call this unless they're really into swings, but we were wondering if we could prioritize this park because it seems to be neglected for a while. And so just as a concerned parent, we're looking to get a little luck there.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. If I may, as a follow-up for staff, perhaps by the next meeting, we could just get a status update on when that park was last refurbished, or perhaps you can speak on it now.
Good evening, Chair Erickson and Commissioners. Brentwood Park is currently, there is a CIP in development, but due to ADA elevations, the project must meet certain requirements set forth by the ADA, and any sort of construction above surface level could trigger the ADA requirements. And if you're familiar with that park on the Brentwood side, the elevation is quite extreme, and to get the proper grade would require regrading of the whole large portion of that frontage park. But it is on a CIP. There is a design, and it has been shelved, and it's currently in the 7-year CIP.
Okay. Thank you for the update. Thank you for being here. Seeing no other public comment, I will close this item. Yes. Oh, there you are. Huh. Good.
My mic on. Hi. I just wanted to thank you for coming in, and I appreciate your email on all of that. I'm wondering if we could just clarify, there was a lot of abbreviations in your excellent explanation, but could you just, for the purpose of the public, explain, we know what ADA is, but what you mean by your CIP and some of the other processes that we're going through on that park?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, CIP is capital improvement projects. I'm not sure what's happening with my speaker. Capital improvement projects are larger projects that are funded and designed and put onto the list. Every year there are approved CIP projects depending on the budget, and many move forward. But we have a 7-year list, and on the 5-year list, which is always the Brentwood Park is in the 5-year list.
Okay, thank you. And I know this isn't an official agenda item, but I know there's been a lot of support from your neighbors around this. So just for the purpose of the public, could you explain if they wanted to take this further and really get this on the agenda or get it up the list for CIP, what would be the process that the public would need to go through other than coming to talk to us here?
I would recommend contacting their district council representative.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff, for clarifying that. Great question, Sarah. All right. No other public comment. We'll move on to commissioner comments, and I'd like to take a moment and actually let this woman to my left lead off.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Liz McNabb. Thank you for all being here this evening. In leading off my comments this evening, it's really important that we recognize a very important person to the Parks, Arts, and Community Services Department named Justin Martin. And Mr. Martin will be leaving for broader horizons as of tomorrow. And so I just really wanted to take this opportunity to thank him for his amazing 5 years of service to the city of Costa Mesa. He has really impacted our community in such a positive way, and it's really sad to see him go, but we're super happy for his new opportunity, and I personally want to thank him for guiding me through the process of becoming a commissioner, then becoming chair, and just really thank you for your leadership throughout these years that we've been together. The city is better for it, and I certainly am as well. So I also had the opportunity to represent our state assemblywoman, and so I get the opportunity to present certificates of official recognition from the state of California. And so at this time, I would like to present Mr. Justin Martin with that recognition from the California State Assembly. So on behalf of Cotty Petrie Norris, thank you, Justin. You're amazing. And if I could get a quick photo.
If you'd like to make any remarks, please do.
Sure.
Mr. Martin.
Good evening, Chair Erickson and members of the Commission. Thank you so much for this recognition. It's a blessing for sure. It's something I was definitely not expecting. I've really appreciated all of your hard work and all your dedication to serving the city of Costa Mesa, not only this commission, but all the commissioners that I've worked with. I want to thank the staff as well, Ms. Aguilar, Ms. Birch, and Mr. Lindeman. You've got a superstar team down here who I know I'm leaving you in very capable hands, and I'm very proud of the leadership that they show, so I want to thank them. But again, I'm just very happy for the work that I've been able to contribute to the successes of here in the city of Costa Mesa. I'll be keeping my eye on things, and the staff are aware of that, and I know that they'll make me proud. And again, I'm very thankful that our paths have crossed, and I know that you'll continue to do great work for the city. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And can we request one more thing of Mr. Martin? A group photo, if that's all right?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
yes, let's do that.
Shall we all go down there?
Yes.
I think we need it in front of the Inglewood Trust, you know, our Costa Mesa seal. Justin,
Yeah, the
can you
Costa
come
All
Mesa.
right. Let's have Justin up.
That's a good idea.
They want him in the middle, being under the seal. The center point.
Okay, I'm gonna get next to Justin, thank you.
1, 2, 3, there we go.
Are we all in?
Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
Congrats. Thank you.
All right. Thank you again, Mr. Martin, for all your service. We'll move on now with commissioner comments. I'll start to the far right of myself and let Ms. Ashendorf take over. You can, I think you can, there.
We good? It's not red. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the staff for a wonderful Scarecrow Festival. It was a great deal of fun. It was a huge success. And I would also like to acknowledge the Cultural Arts Committee for tying for first place with their Scarecrow. And also I'd like to acknowledge the staff for making arrangements for us to have park ranger ride-alongs. Park Ranger Matt Anderson was extremely knowledgeable. He has a lot of history with the city, and I'm short and I drive a Miata, so I miss a lot of the city. And when you're up high in one of those vehicles, you get a whole different feeling and perspective of the city. So thank you for that opportunity. A couple of items to put on the horizon for the Costa Mesa Senior Center. We're fortunate to have the LEAPS program participating once again at Halloween at the Senior Center. Doors will be decorated and senior volunteers will be passing out candy to the 3- and 4-year-olds from that program. Also, October 31st is the annual Monster Mash at the center, and if you're curious to know what costume I'll be wearing, I invite you to join us for lunch that day. A community event at the Senior Center we're most proud of is a partnership with the Arts and Learning Conservatory. They will be performing a portion of Mary Poppins at the Senior Serve Luncheon November 7th. So that will be a special opportunity and a highlight for our seniors. And finally, I wanted to acknowledge Smart Camp, a program of our city, for being recognized by the League of California Cities with the Helen Putnam Award. Thanks to the partnership and the hard work of the city and the Newport Mesa Unified School District, that program is serving our youth from 5th to 8th grade. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Rutherford?
Thank you, Chair Erickson, fellow commissioners, staff. I just wanted to start off by saying a few things that I've been up to over the past couple months. Of course, Art Venture was an incredible event that I saw a lot of fellow commissioners at. I also got a chance to attend the Newport Boulevard Widening Outreach Meeting earlier on September 16th. So it was great to see city staff doing proactive outreach for that project, a series of outreach meetings. I did have some concerns, though, that the consultants and staff didn't present any alternatives that considered walkability and bikeability alternatives, and I think that's a big priority for a lot of commissioners and council members as well. So maybe something we consider going forward on all of our projects. There was also a great discussion on October 8th at the City Council meeting for the Regional Housing Needs Assessment study session. The city's going into its next housing element period, so I think that's something for all of us on the commission to keep in mind going forward with the high number that's coming down from the state. I think it's important for us to view that not as a challenge or an obstacle, but as an opportunity for the city to keep growing at its greatest heights. As referenced by Commissioner Ashendorf, I also had a fantastic time on my park ranger ride-along that we've been participating over the past few months. Specifically, Anne was an incredible park ranger. I think all of the rangers have a challenging job that they do in this city, having to balance so many different enforcement needs. And I just wanted to point out something, if Allison, if you could pull up that photo, which is up. I think the rangers have a lot on their plate in terms of enforcement, and something that could be proactive with the staff, and something that I encourage residents to do as well is if you notice signage in the parks, we could start being proactive about reporting that. Chair Erickson is quite the prophet for the My Costa Mesa app, and so that's something that we can all use to report stuff that we see, faded no smoking signs in high fire danger areas. It's important to, keep an eye out for that stuff. So that was an important insight from the ride along with Anne. Thank you, Allison. I also want to raise a point that was in our minutes from last meeting. Resident Flo Martin had come expressing concerns about Wilson Park and the lack of picnic benches there. Then we heard a similar concern about the resident that just spoke at Brentwood Park. So I was, I'd be definitely encouraged, Bruce and Yvette, if we could just take a look at, what's going on with the picnic benches in those parks, and if there's an opportunity for something to be done there, if we could make sure the residents are being accommodated. Thank you.
Commissioner DeSico?
Thank you, Chair Erickson. I'll be brief. Costa Mesa does a great job with classes, and definitely having low-cost classes. We're definitely one of the best cities as far as cost. We do a great job with that. I still want there to be an option for some of these low-cost or no-cost classes to look at an option that people could donate money, whether that's preset amounts or another amount that they could choose. Look at that as an option for, again, a lot of our programs are very low cost or no cost. So if maybe you guys could look at that possibility and let me know if that's option that could be had. We could use that for funds like to upgrade fields or parks, or like the dog park. I noticed driving on my way here, there's less grass than there is grass right now. So just having some options that people could donate some money to for things that they believe in, because sometimes money gets tight with city council budgets, and it would be nice for people who are using the parks to be able to fund those improvements as well, or at least give them that option. Also, I wanted to say with the classes, if we could also have a policy, my kids attend these classes regularly. Again, I think they're they do a great job. City of Costa Mesa does a great job. But if we could have a standard policy for actually warming the kids up so that there's some consistency there. I still see a lot of static stretching to start, which was what we did in the 90s, but that is not the correct way that any sporting organization would tell you how to warm up. It'd be a dynamic warm up. So if we could evaluate that and then maybe have a standard policy to all people who administer these classes of how to warm up the kids, that would be great. Static stretching they can do at the very end. And then one other policy I'd like the City of Costa Mesa to look at is our policy on liquid ambers, and to maybe begin to give some direction for these trees. These are a tree species that was planted 30 to 40 years ago. Tonight, we're going to be having some residents talk about some of the problems these trees are causing. Our inventory in our city is somewhere around 2,000 of these trees, and if we could have a long-term plan for those. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll skip myself and head on down to...
I do just have a couple other comments
Oh.
in addition to thanking Justin, if you don't mind.
Sure thing.
Okay. So I too was able to attend a ride along with Park Ranger Matt Anderson, and he was so professional and helpful and insightful in his guidance to what it takes to actually, monitor our parks and keep them as well maintained as they are. So I would like to thank all of the Costa Mesa Police Department that are doing such a great job. And the other thing was that indeed the Scarecrow Festival was just so amazingly well attended. On the afternoon that I went, they had already had 1,750 riders on the train, and that doesn't include people I think they had over 3,000 people for the weekend. So, when we get the opportunity to showcase all the wonderful opportunities that there are in Costa Mesa, it's really a wonderful thing. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Take it down now to Commissioner Fay.
All right. Hello, everyone. I know you missed us last month. We missed you. Nice to be here. First, I do want to say thank you to Justin. We are really going to miss you. I agree with everything that Commissioner McNabb, I wanted to say Liz, has said. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for us, for the work on the bridge shelter. I think, a lot of people in our city know that you went above and beyond your normal job duties, but not everyone knows the huge role that you played in getting the bridge shelter together. And I think that that's a miracle for our city and something that we can be really proud of. So thank you. So many things. I learned a lot about the skate park this month. Thank you to the city for spending some time with me on giving me some of the background. We were voted, our Costa Mesa skate park was voted the best community skate park of Orange County by Parenting Magazine and OC. So to our community, there are tons of classes and fun things that you can do with your kids out at the skate park of all ages. You don't have to be a professional to get out there. So go take a look at it, 24,000 square feet. And we'd love to look at what that looks like in the future as well. Also, there's an event coming up this Saturday, October 26th, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Moon Goat Coffee over on Placentia, 1985 Placentia, which is It Takes a Village cleanup, really around what drains to the ocean. So a nonprofit organization that is helping get some of our trash out of the city, make sure things aren't draining to the ocean. Go meet them over at Moon Goat Coffee if you haven't been there yet, one of our new local businesses that has opened up. Great spot. Also, just a reminder, it is fire season. In case you didn't remember, thank you for those photos of Fairview Park. Please be careful not to be smoking or dropping matches around anywhere. We definitely want to protect our city in that space. And Brentwood Park, thank you to the residents that came out around Brentwood Park. I think the other comment I would have around that is I have gotten a lot of emails and communication around Brentwood Park, and I think it's an overarching story that there are a lot of young people in our city. There are a lot of young families that have toddlers that are looking for more places to take their kids in the parks. And when we make something accessible for young people, it usually is accessible for all ages, up into senior citizens and otherwise. So thank you to the city for continuing to prioritize those projects that make our parks more accessible for all ages. And also had a great opportunity to go to the grand opening of our newest mural. I think we missed that month. Costa Mesa Bloom, 19th Street and Harbor Boulevard. It was a collaboration with Travel Costa Mesa, the City of Costa Mesa, and the Triangle. Go check that out. It's a beautiful art piece by artist Aaron Glasson, and thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Frager?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I also wanted to send my kudos over to Commissioner Aschendorf and the Cultural Arts Committee with the great success of Art Venture back in September. I was lucky enough to help with setup as well as attend the opening night. So just super, super proud of what that event is, and I can't wait to see it continue to grow, and I hope to continue to be involved. And I also attended the Back to Soy event over at Save Our Youth in September. And I just wanted to send a thank you to that staff and just that organization in general. They're doing great work with our some Costa Mesa high school students in Costa Mesa, not all Costa Mesa high school students. And I got a lovely tour of the facility with a high school student named Bridget, and she was so excited to tell me all about just the different opportunities that are available to the students there, and just showed me around and did a really great and professional job at giving me a tour. So I was really impressed by that. I also attended both the Costa Mesa Bloom and the United to End Homelessness. I wasn't here in August, so I didn't get to send any thank yous for that opening event either. But those two murals are just such great resources we have in our city now for awareness and for people to put themselves in art, and because you get to sit inside of both of those pieces and kind of be part of what those murals represent with diversity and helping everyone out. And I just really enjoyed getting to be a part of both of those events. I also have been able to help bring some vocalists in our community to sing the national anthem at some city council meetings, and that's been a really fun thing to connect with some old and some new friends who are wonderfully talented in our community, and I hope to continue to meet great people through that. If you have suggestions of great singers, let me know. And I also wanted to just promote the Argyros Plaza some more. There's some great free events that go on throughout the week there, every Tuesday night. I think they're ending soon, but they've got their free dance classes out there. People of all ages have a great time cutting a rug to all different types of music, so that's super fun. And it's been fun to get to kind of wander around those and see who those events attract. And then Pacific Symphony has started its 25th anniversary season of their Class Act program, which is an elementary school partnership program of which 4 Newport Mesa Unified School Districts are a part of, one being Victoria Elementary, who's been involved since the first year. So they've been involved 25 years now. The theme this year for that program, it's a music appreciation program, so there's some classroom lessons with our musicians as well as ensemble performances. And the theme this year is Symphony in the Movies with composer John Williams. So thank you.
Thank you. I have just a few comments to wrap up with. Firstly, I was reviewing the police department memo that gets sent to us every month from the park rangers, and was actually pleased, if that's the right word, to see that the anti-camping violations are being enforced. We've done so much great work to build a bridge shelter and to continue to find ways to reach out to the homeless population, and the other side of that sword is enforcement, and we all want our parks to be safe, so I appreciate the rangers providing that enforcement. I do like the CM app, the Costa Mesa app. It works really, really well. One thing I learned about it just in the last week is if you are living on a street which is tree poor or barren from trees, and you see Parkway in front of your house and you might want a tree in front of it, you can use the app to make that request. Just through a maintenance request of the city. It's a really nice feature. You can do everything on this app, from report graffiti and trash and so on to things like requesting a tree. Or if you notice a tree that's been run over by a car, you can put that in as well. Again, My Costa Mesa app's a great way to go. Finally, there is going to be a bicycle race in Costa Mesa next month. It's not an official city event, but our parks are being graciously opened up to an organization that hosts bicycle races. 8 to 10 years ago, we hosted a similar race in Fairview Park. It was a resounding success, and due to the cooperation with staff and our outgoing manager, we're going to bring that back. So it's at Balearic. It's on the 24th of November. I encourage everyone to come out. It's a great way to enjoy your park on a bicycle. Races are going to be for all ages, men, women, and kids, and it's just a great atmosphere. So I'll close with that. Let's move on to item number 7, the consent calendar. So all matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine, will be enacted in one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion prior to the time that the commission votes on the motion, unless members from the commission staff or public request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar. These items will be discussed and voted upon immediately following commission action on the remainder of the consent calendar. Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent calendar?
Yes, I would request
As a motion.
pull item A.
Okay. We have a request. Do we need a second on that, or a motion? Okay. Well, let's open it for discussion.
There we go.
Yep.
If I may, upon review of the recommendations for the fee increases, I am somewhat concerned about the large percentage for the Kids Love Soccer classes of more than 20%, 21.4%. And I feel like such a jump is a little bit more than perhaps necessary. So for that one, I think a 12% increase from $98 to $110 would be a more reasonable amount. So I don't know if other people have comments on those fees, but I would move to pass item 7A with the amendment that the kids love soccer class proposed fee be $110 instead of $118.
And is that your motion?
That is my motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. I want to see if there's a second. I'll second that. Okay, there is a second from,
Well, we need.
yeah, we do need public comment, I suppose. Okay. I don't see any public comment. I'll give a discussion point to Commissioner Fay.
Thank you. I definitely am feel the same around this, and the other one that stood out to me actually was even the 12% increase and the 15% increases around watercolor and sailing. I think 10% increases seem more reasonable. Activities like sailing are just so incredible for our city, and they're generally expensive, yet we live so close to the beach, and I hate to see things like that get more expensive for people to try them and keep them away from the water. So I would like to amend the motion, ask if the offerer of the motion would be willing to amend the motion to cap those increases at 10% for both sailing and soccer.
I'll ask a point of the city staff. We have a motion and a second. Can we amend the motion?
If the maker of the motion accepts the amendment, we can move forward with it.
Yes, I accept the amendment.
Okay, and is there any further discussion? I see one.
My question is on the increases. Are they staff-driven or are they instructor-driven?
They are typically requested by the contractors.
Okay.
And the staff, what we do on our end is research other surrounding cities to make sure that the rates are comparable to what is being offered by those cities as well.
So based on that, we could assume or presume that if we accept the motion, we may lose a particular instructor. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I just had a question for the soccer one specifically. Was it stated why the increase? I mean, I did see the last fee increase was fall 2017. So was that the reason? Because it hasn't been increased in a couple years, and this is for 2020, so that'll end up being almost 3 years. So I could understand if they haven't increased it in 3 years, maybe why the bigger jump. Was that why they wanted this bigger increase?
Yes, they haven't raised their fees since fall of 2017, and then it's also due to increase in materials.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair Peterson, if we do the math on capping it at 10%, for the adult watercolor, it would move from $326 to $358 instead of $375. A $50 increase on one class session does seem like a fair amount, whereas if we did the 10%, it would be more like a $32 increase. Or, we could potentially put the proposed fee at $360 if we don't want it exactly 10%, if we want more of an even number for the instructional book. And then for the adult sailing class, it would be $170 versus the $155 currently. So that's a pretty nice round number. So anyway, for people's consideration, I think that those increases are fairly palatable, and that's, I think that I think that motion is where we are landing at this time.
Yes, and it is on the floor. It has been seconded. At this time, if there's no other, anything from the staff or the commissioners, I'd like to call for the question on that motion. Yes. Yeah, we need to go back. So you need to put your
Make the motion, yep.
And then
Thank you, sorry.
the second was from, there we go.
There's no modify the motion button?
No, I guess not. Okay, so we can call for the question now.
The motion passes 5-2 with Commissioners DeSico and Chair Erickson voting no.
Thank you. With that, we'll close the consent calendar. We'll move to item 8, old business. Staff, do you have anything to present?
Thank you, Chair Erickson and Commissioners. I would just like to give you an update on a tree item that was moved from 2 months ago's calendar, and it is 980 Presidio Avenue. There was a request to remove that tree. There was some discussion on the property lines, and staff was requested to go back and research the exact property line. That site was visited by the city's principal engineer, as well as another arborist, a third-party arborist, and another arborist from the certified arborist from the city of Costa Mesa. And it was decided at that time that the tree's proximity was too close to the current wall, and even if the wall were to be removed, that would require the resident to go back in 5 years, remove the wall again for another root pruning, which we did not feel that would be a recommended motion, and the tree is going to be removed. It's scheduled to be removed soon.
Thank you for the update. I appreciate that. With that, we'll close item 8, old business, move on to 9, new business. New business item number A is the Fairview Park Annual Report.
Thank you, Chair Erickson. Chair Erickson and members of the commission, this evening we have our Fairview Park Administrator, Cynthia D'Agosta, who is here to provide us with a general overview of Fairview Park and the work that's being done in conjunction with the Fairview Park Steering Committee, and some, as well as some upcoming restoration projects. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. D'Agosta.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'm pleased to be here this evening with you to give you the annual update on the Fairview Park and the Fairview Park Steering Committee. I've got a few slides here, and I'll just jump right into it for us. The general activity, I'll go over the general activities first, and then I'm going to drill down on 2 or 3 of them and then take questions, please. This past year, the steering committee member transition time in April, as much as you all do with your commission. We transitioned very nicely, and we added a new OCME, the Orange County Model Engineers liaison, to the committee, which has helped tremendously. They're a nonprofit that runs, as you know, that runs the trains and works very closely with Fairview Park administration. So it's nice to have them on the committee now. The steering committee annual work focuses primarily on the master plan revisions, and I'll go into those in a little bit more detail on another slide. Some of the projects that we have done this past year at Fairview Park, we had a bluff emergency erosion control and borrow area. Again, I will drill down on that a little bit in some slides coming up. And then the vernal pool 4, which is across from Waldorf School on Canyon Drive. We did a protective berm and fencing around that vernal pool to keep the water in and not on the street, but into the vernal pool where we want it to be. Harbor Soaring Society Agreement and Review, you've seen that. That's come to you. We'll talk a little bit more about that. It will be back again in front of you this spring. And then we conducted a wetland study, and we have some ongoing maintenance planning and mosquito abatement there, which again, I'll drill down on a little bit on. We, this season, had 7 sightings of burrowing owls, which is quite exciting because 2 years ago they had been gone from Fairview Park, and we actually were able to work with the state biologist who is responsible for banding so that we can track them and know if they're the same ones coming back every year or where else they might be within the state. There is a online system that others can report them in, so we'll know where they're at within the state. And then we've begun a process on vernal pool restoration. We got everything in place for it. This is pools 5, 6, and 7, which is between Estancia and Waldorf. It's a little triangle there across from the lawn area. So that's kind of in general. Oh, these are the ones I will drill down on. Public engagement, we have done a lot of activities this year. We had with Love Costa Mesa Day, two different sites, both Canyon and Fairview Park, and we had 50 to 60 participants in each one of those sites. Very successful day. We'll do it again this year in 2020. Second Saturday restorations is what we do with our nonprofit, the Institute for Conservation Research and Education. And here's an example of some of the youth that come out for that. And we have a lot of groups that are participating in it. We have done springtime environmental education, such as the Wetlands Day vernal pool. You can see all the people standing in the rain here. It was fun. People wanted to be in it, and the vernal pools were full. That was the attraction for it. And then, of course, on Earth Day, we had a booth with our steering committee out at OCME to talk to people about our studies and to do a wetlands walk. I got to participate this month, first Saturday of October, with the Native American tribes. They do an ancestor walk to several sites in Orange County, and Fairview Park is one of those sites, so I was able to join them on that, and we're going to be working with them more in the future on bringing attention to and respect for the cultural resources that are out there at Fairview Park. Of course, Concerts in the Park is quite successful. Fish Fry was our last season in September at Fairview Park, but again, very successful. And then, as has been mentioned, the Scarecrow Festival. We had a lot of fun this year. There's some examples of the scarecrows if you didn't get to get out and see them. We had 25 entries for scarecrows, which is an all-time high. As was mentioned, there were over 1,300 rides on the 2 days on the trains. And we had over 670 voters for the Scarecrow competition for two different entries, a Mayor's Award and the People's Choice Award. So it was quite fun. As I mentioned earlier, the bluff erosion, and I think that you had seen this earlier in the year. I want to point out here on the right-hand side is the current condition of the bluffs, and this runs the full length. I've only got a section of it here. It runs the full length down to the stairs on the north end. And you can see here some of the erosion that was beginning to happen. And what is happening is the vernal pools over in this area are starting to drain this direction. And so we went in and did an emergency berm on this second slide. You can see the straw wattles here, which are holding the soil up during our construction site. And then we've got this nice new trail on the bluff that is actually a slight berm that will both hold the water from going over and will help stop some of the gopher holes that we had in the trail as well. So yeah, very successful project. The wetland management, I wanted to talk about a little bit. We have beautiful wetlands down in the lower 40 acres, if you will, of the park. Some of the work that it takes to keep that habitat in its good state of habitat and to try and maintain it requires coordination with a lot of regulatory agencies and the upkeep of the mitigation requirements that we have there. We work with Orange County Flood, we work with vector control, city and county, as you've mentioned earlier, for encampment management, and a lot of intercity department coordination, and of course with the neighbors that are adjacent to the wetlands. Some of the management of it, I just wanted to point out, we've got a contract crew that is out here daily maintaining the wetlands, and some of it requires quite a bit of hefty lifting. And then we do some mechanical clearing of the wetlands as well. And we did a mosquito trapping program in the backyards of the neighbors along Swan Drive for 2 years in a row now, and are constantly working on trail maintenance and access there. So the Fairview Park Steering Committee, let me just talk about that a little bit. The committee meets every other month, and this year what we've done is broken into subcommittees in the alternate months to work on issues of updating the master plan. It was last updated in 2003, and in that version of the master plan, there were many new amenities that were planned for the park, which I'm sure you've heard about. And then Measure AA was passed in 2016, which put some conditions on those planned amenities. So the steering committee and I are working on the new master plan update will be revisions focused on land management for preservation and restoration primarily. Public engagement in education, marketing, and funding. So there's the focus areas, and we're kind of shifting the perspective, if you will, from amenity development to more of the restoration and preservation in that effort. I wanted to mention that in response to Commissioner Rutherford's question about signage this evening, that as part of this process of the master plan update, we are looking at a comprehensive plan for fencing, trails, and signage out there. There is going to be a new aesthetic developed for that for the park in the master plan, and so all of that long-term planning will fit into that. In the meantime, we are doing a pilot project, if you will, with some of the temporary signage that you saw. And one of the programs that we are planning to work on next is a Trails Watch program, which will allow people, and we will work with them to be the eyes and the ears out there more so that we can have more reporting when you see a down sign or when you see a misbehaving resident or any of those issues, a trail that needs to be repaired. So that's all in the works. Just want to mention that. So what's next for us is that the steering committee, we will be making a recommendation on regarding the Harbor Soaring Society and the fly field compatibility that you heard about earlier this year. We'll be back in front of you again. I believe it'll be April in the spring with that recommendation. And we will be making recommendations for management and maintenance continued of the wetlands and any updates that need to go on there. We'll get in the process of conducting an RFP for the master plan update to occur. Vernal pools 5, 6, and 7, as I mentioned, will be the main part of the restoration will be completed within 2020, and we'll be doing monitoring of that for 5 years. We have a fencing and trails maintenance plan and a feasibility study for the east side where you enter the train station, that parking lot there. We're going to do a feasibility study regarding that area and how we can improve and upgrade and work with the specific habitats that we have over there. And then we're going to launch into doing a flora and fauna inventory for Canyon Park, which has not been done yet. So that's my report for this evening, and I'll be glad to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the report. At this time, I'd like to open it up to questions from the commission.
Thank you, Chair Erickson. I just wanted to follow up on that. So you were saying that the temporary signage in the park right now is a pilot program, and those were the signs that are, paper, and some of them had been falling off. Mm-hmm. So I was just concerned with my ride-along with Anne, who is a park ranger. I'm just talking about, how things are reported in the park, incidents and encounters, and sometimes, for an enforcement action, people have no idea where it was reported in the park or the people calling it in. And I've had this happen myself out there. If I were to call something and I wouldn't know where to say exactly I was. So an idea we had just discussed in closed session was an identification program to go along with the signage, where people could, see a number or something on a sign that allows them to know where to report something, so that there's just more safety in the park.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, and one that is under consideration in the master plan process in terms of we're looking at signage programs for other park entities. So we're looking at Santa Monica Mountains, for instance. Conservancy has an excellent program, signage program there. Orange County Parks has an excellent one laid out. And so there are a lot of models that we can look at for that. A couple of things that have been talked about are the QVC codes, using those on signage, that might be a really quick way and a good way for people to not just report things in, but to get information about the habitat they're looking at or a particular bird in the area or something like that. Also, the idea of mapping the park so that there are sections of it, so that when you're calling in, I've seen a model of a trails map, actually, that you can carry in your pocket when you're on your bike or walking, and you can flip to the section you're in of that park and know where you are. So we've got some ideas in the works, and I'd be happy to take more suggestions if you have them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Fay?
Yes, thank you for that. That was very helpful. I want to call out one point that you talked about in updating the master plan about the focus around marketing and funding. And I want to commend yourself and the committee for having that be one of the priorities. I think when we look back at having a great master plan in 2003 and then not a lot being implemented perhaps in between, new priorities coming in 2016. There was probably brilliant ideas in both of those that we just still haven't had the money and the time to put forward and get implemented. And so I think that it is great to have an actual implementation and funding strategy aligned to a master plan, rather than it just being a plan in 5 years' time. Someone else can be sitting here saying, you actually got that done because there was funding around it. So well done on that. Thank you.
Ms. DaGosta. First, I want to acknowledge the work of the committee to include the Orange County model engineers, to have them have a seat at the table when we've been partnering with them using Goat Hill Junction and bringing the community there. I think that's a really good decision for the community as a whole. Second, I didn't know until I read in the Daily Pilot that there was an 80s mosquito. I thought a mosquito was a mosquito until I was attacked by them over the weekend, and the welts lasted for 3 to 4 days. Are those the same mosquitoes you're seeing in Fairview?
We are, with Orange County Vector Control, tracking the species of the mosquitoes that we are capturing. That's not to say we're capturing all mosquitoes that are out there, but to my knowledge, that one has not been reported.
So if that's an issue, as it has been recently on the state streets, is that something that we should contact Vector Control directly if we think that's an issue in our area?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
I just had a quick question on that emergency erosion. Is that a long-term fix, or was that just an emergency patch-up and there's a plan for future work with that?
This was an emergency fix. Council approved an emergency project on this, and it had particularly come to light with the amount of rains that we had last season. Many of the gopher holes along the bluff had grown in size, so the water that was flowing out was then being captured in those holes and then coming out the drainage that you see here. So it's an emergency fix. There has been a study in 2005, I believe it was, of the engineering of the bluffs, and it is one of the top priorities for restoration. Without the bluffs, we don't have a park.
Right, okay. Good. And I'm glad to see that you're going to have a policy on fencing as well, as far as aesthetics goes. I know for concerts in the park, going up to Fairview Park, there was a chain link fence along Placentia, and that just doesn't seem like it fits with the theme of Fairview Park. So I'm glad there's going to be some consistency for the design of everything, including fencing. So I'm glad we're doing that. And then with the signage, as far as the vernal pools and the Native Americans to that area doing the ancestor walk, I would like to see signage to those things, because to me, the vernal pools just look like dirt. And unless I knew about them, and I didn't before being on this commission, it would just look like dirt. So it would be good to see some signage to educate people. This is what they are. This is why we're trying to keep you away from walking through these areas. And these are the kind of animals, these fairy shrimp, that are, I mean, it's good to educate, and I think people may end up being more respectful of those things if they knew about it. So I'm glad you're looking at signage to those things. And are they looking at signage to the Native Americans to that area, or about what that area was, or how they utilize that area, or even like some sort of setup to look like what a village might have looked like? Is there anything like that in the plans, or would it just be a plaque to talk about it? I'm interested.
We haven't gotten that far in the planning, in the details of that, and I am in the process of building the relationship with the Native American representatives who have done projects like that in other Orange County parks. So we'll be looking at what some of the models are and working with them. That will come within the next phase of the master plan.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And I just had one question and one comment. Firstly, the question around Kenyon Park and the ice plant there. I attended a Love Costa Mesa Day a couple of years ago where we removed ice plant. I had heard afterwards that it's a favorite for Caltrans and other agencies as a means of a fire break because it contains so much moisture. And with those homes at the top of the cliffs alongside Kenyon Park, I just have to wonder, what is our plan going to be around ice plant? I know it doesn't belong there, but does it serve a purpose as a fire break?
I can answer your question about the fire break. I don't know what brought Ice Plant into Canyon Park. I don't think we have a
Yeah.
history of why it was
Yeah.
planted. It is used, you're right, as a fire break in other areas. We've also seen it, because it contains so much water, become a hazard on slopes. It begins to pull erosion with it over the years. We haven't even begun on Canyon Park. Our inventory is the first step that we'll be taking to know what we have over there, and then we can begin planning process. But as it stands right now, we're starting there, and we don't really have a plan in place for that yet,
Fair enough. And,
except to remove more
oh, okay.
on the lower area where we were working.
Where there's not so much
Yeah.
slope.
Yeah.
I see. And then as a comment, and we're on the right slide for it, the berm that did its job well and is serving as a great footpath and bike path also borrowed dirt, as you used the term, from what was a very well-defined and enjoyed user-defined trail. I know of a 4-year-old who started crying when he didn't see his jumps there anymore. And it just brings up what seems to be a very popular use at this park, and that is cycling. People feel safe out on the dirt. There's no cars to contend with. It's a great place for people to learn how to ride bicycles, and my only comment is that as you develop this new master plan, that be taken into consideration. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much again for your time. Okay, so we're on to new business.
Chair Erickson?
Yes, I'm sorry.
If I may just make a comment, I just wanted to acknowledge Cynthia has now been with the city for 2 years and has been instrumental and amazing, has done such an excellent job with the Fairview Park Steering Committee, really leading the charge and the perception of Fairview Park and moving forward with restoration projects. And she's just been an excellent addition to the team and has been great at highlighting the crown jewel that is Fairview Park. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge her and thank her for her work.
Well said. All right, pardon me for interrupting you, didn't mean to. Okay, so we're on now to new business, 9B. I'm going to introduce the item, just as 9B, which is a tree removal at Avenue of the Arts. Yes, Cash.
Just in the interest, I see some families that are here tonight for another item, and just in the interest of their time, and optimistic that it won't take a while, I'd like to motion that we move 9B to the bottom of new business.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Does it have a second? Okay. We have a second from Commissioner Fay. Let me go back to the home panel. Okay, so the motion is now closed. You have it recorded. There's the motion in the second. I'll call for the question. Is it recording? How's our technology doing?
The motion carries 6-1 with Chair Erickson voting no.
Okay, and with that, we'll move item B to what is after item D, and we will proceed now with item C. Tree removal request 2069 Swan Drive.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Art Reese. I'm at 2069 Swan Drive.
I'm so sorry. Sir, we just need to kick this off from the maintenance director. I'm having trouble with the mics. Let's have the maintenance director kick this off. We'll give you your time to speak, sir.
Okay, let's just throw this off here. Good evening, Commissioner and Chair. We have 3 tree removal requests tonight. On the agenda, there were 4. Item number 4, 468 Ogle Street. The applicant requested to have that removed, and that will be moved into November's meeting. Tonight, we will begin with the tree removal request at 2069 Swan Drive. This tree request, it's the second time that this has been before the commission. The first time was May 26, 2016. The request was denied at that time. The type of tree it is, it's American sweet gum, also known as a liquid amber. The height of the tree is approximately 40 to 45 feet. The city's right-of-way is 10 feet. The last time the tree was trimmed was in 2018. Here's a picture of the tree from across the street, facing the residence. This is a view facing east. You can see it's a very large and healthy tree. There's a view facing west. Once again, a large, healthy tree. And this is a view of the street. As you can see, there are several other liquid ambers in this picture. This is a picture taken from down the street facing to the east. The tree does show raised and exposed roots. As you can see in this photo, that the sidewalk is not showing significant infrastructure damage, and the curb is also not showing significant infrastructure damage or water flow issues. And that will conclude my presentation if you have any questions.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions from the commissioners before we let the applicant speak? Okay. Seeing none. Please proceed. Yes, sir. Sorry for the confusion.
Art Reese, 2069 Swan Drive. Lived there for 40 years, in Costa Mesa for 50 years. And as the staff member indicated to you, back in May 26, 2016, we were denied a request to remove the tree. Fast forward to September 2017, my gardener dug out some roots near my walkway that goes into the house, and dug down and removed some large and small roots from that tree. And that was a $400 bill. Fast forward to August the 16th, 2019, only 2 months away back. I had my plumber come over because I had a backup in my downstairs shower and in 2 other toilets. So he took the downstairs toilet down and cleaned it out and recommended that I get a scope of the sewer line, which I did. In fact, the next day I called GCS Plumbing and said, I need to have a scope, because so he came out, did a scope from the backyard because I had no clean out in the front yard. Did a scope from the backyard, scoped it out, and took an audio visual, which I think made its way to the city. And he said, you really need a clean out valve in the front part of your house. So I delayed that in August 26th. He snaked it out there. August 27th, GCS Plumbing did put a clean out valve in the front lawn and the front planter so we could get better access to that problem sewer. That was a $3,000 bill. Jump forward to August the 16th, 2019, I had another sewer backup. Anyway, that was another expense. And so on and on it goes. And the one last comment, GGCX Plumbing on both their invoices said the city needs to remove that tree because there's going to be other problems. That sewer line runs 5 feet from that tree and then heads out to the street. I know I'm going to have extra expenses and extra problems.
Colored pictures of what's there. Our driveway has a crack. It's a cement driveway. It's from the tree. And I gave you pictures of the street where the tree is also cracking Swan Drive. And we had to remove our lawn in the front, and we had somebody come in and chop all the roots out in our front yard because the grass was not growing and the roots were coming up in the yard. So we've had major things. We both are elderly. My husband has a cane, and when those brown balls fall from that stupid tree, it's a beautiful tree. It should be in the forest and not in our streets. I'm afraid that we would fall on those and we would be hurt. I did take a fall in Irvine at their International Harvest, their festival. I tripped and it fractured my arm and had stitches, and I was in a sling for 6 weeks. And it was because their concrete was raised a little bit, and the concrete on our front of our house is also raised. So we really need your help.
Thank you for your speech, and we appreciate you being here. Let's see. With that, I'll close the comments and open it up for the commission. Any questions of the applicant or comments?
Yeah, I do want to thank you guys for providing some of this documentation that definitely helps us make these decisions. Obviously, there's problems with roots. That's affecting not only your home property, but also your feeling of safety in the community. So that's something that we need to address one way or another. So I do have some questions for the city, just as far as obviously removing the tree is an option, but I do have some questions about some other options to possibly address these root issues that are definitely affecting this family, and not just them, other members around that community. I did have questions about when was the last time the roots were pruned of this tree, and is that a viable option currently?
Thank you, Commissioner DeSecchio. That tree we do not have maintenance records of the root pruning for that tree. That tree also, the condition that is causing the intrusion into the sewer line, it's from a lateral versus normally the root barrier is put along the sidewalk or the curb line, while this runs laterally along the street. The root barrier may solve some of those issues, but due to the depth of the sewer line, it would more than likely, the root intrusion would occur again in a brief time.
So even putting a root barrier, they could expect to have the same sewer issues in the future?
Correct. This tree may continue to intrude upon their sewer line.
What time frame would be predicted for that intrusion?
Well, that's quite difficult to give you a realistic number due to the maturity of the tree. Its growth rate may slow down in the near future, but as root barriers go, they are usually good for 2 to 5 years. Due to the depth of the sewer main line, I would expect that to be less because the roots are going right underneath it.
So they could potentially expect a problem with the roots in less than 2 years?
Well, that's
potentially.
Very hypothetically, yes. The root barrier is very effective for protecting the curb line, the sidewalk from future raises because of the depth is only 4 inches on the street side. It's more like 8 to 10 under the curb line. Where the sewer line, without actually going out and measuring where that's tying into the mix to the sanitary line, and we know it's going at a slant, and judging by the pictures and the person standing in the hole, we're going to guess that's 3 to 4 feet deep. So it is below the depth of a standard root barrier.
So in your opinion, root pruning and a root barrier would not prevent these problems from happening in the future?
This is in this particular situation, I do not see that it being a long-term remedy.
Okay, thank you.
What book did you say? I didn't hear your last remark. Your last one.
It was that I do not see this being a root barrier would not be a long-term solution to the current issue that you are having with your sewer main line.
I know we had feces coming up in our shower and in our toilets, and not pleasant.
Well, this time I'd like to make a motion having kind of weighed some of the evidence and testimony from the applicants, and I appreciate them being here tonight, I'd like to enter a motion that rather than consider this as a Category 1 removal, that we consider it as, firstly, to deny that request, but then consider it as a Category 2 removal.
So Category 2 means what? It's not going to be removed?
No, it would, if evaluated, be removed, and we would ask for your help in paying for that.
And we've already spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
We're probably up to $4,000 in trimming roots and trying to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps backing up. My washing machine backs up. Everything backs up.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there anyone who wants to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, can you press your little second thing? Oh, he got it? Okay, thanks. Is there any other discussion for the motion on the floor? Okay. Oh, let me ask Commissioner Ashendorf and then McNabb. She got in before you.
What does it 2 mean?
A quick question on the cost for removal of the tree, an estimate, Mr. Lindeman?
Yes, that is on the second page in the fiscal review. The rate that the resident will be charged is the same rate that the city pays for a tree removal, which is quite low for that size of a tree, and that would also include the mitigation tree costs, and that total is $808. Am I the right one?
And does that include removal of the roots, I mean, to a certain depth in the soil?
Well, that would include the removal of the tree and the root pruning. Well, not root pruning, but they go in there with a root remover, and right at the stump, they will grind the roots down to below the surface.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McNabb?
Thank you. Just for clarification purposes, if you could explain to the residents what exactly the Category 2 process is compared to the Category 1 process.
Commissioners, Category 1 is at the city's expense, and it's usually due to infrastructure damage, health and safety issues that are viable to all the residents in the city of Costa Mesa. Usually it's related to trees that are significantly raising a sidewalk or destroying a curb, and in this case, they allegedly are damaging. We have viewed we did view the flash drive sent to us by the plumbing, and there was root intrusion, although we could not discern that the sewer main line was actually crushed or intruded. There's a difference in that when it's very difficult to tell usually in those videos if a root intrusion happens at a joint or a connection point. That is usually not covered as a Category 1, while if it is obvious collapsing of a sewer main line, that could constitute a Category 1. In the video, you can see the root intrusion. Root intrusion is quite normal throughout every city that has a urban forest, and usually that is dealt with the root grinding, or it's on the resident to maintain that. And this Category 2 would be that the resident will pay for the removal and the mitigation trees at a 3-to-1 tree ratio.
Thank you. And reading further into the staff report, this tree is valued at more than $6,000 because it does provide a significant amount of shade. And, I think that we need to be mindful of, our tree and urban forest, as you put it, because it is proven that trees make communities better, safer, and more desirable. So I am inclined to support the motion to allow removal, which is very rare for me because it has caused such significant hardship on the owners. And I hate to see a beautiful tree like this go, but it does seem like it is too large for the space. So at the Category 2 option, I will be voting yes.
Okay. Seeing no other requests to speak in queue and with the motion closed, I will call for the question at this time.
The motion carries 6-1 with Commissioner Rutherford voting no.
Okay. Thank you. So city staff will be following up with the applicants to discuss the process moving
What's the cost
forward.
to remove a tree? Be our expense, right?
Yes,
What's it normally cost to remove a tree?
They said 850.
$850.
808.
Yeah, this would be roughly $808.
Yes.
With another $1,000, right? We want that tree out of there. It's dangerous.
You have your opportunity right now.
Go to
Yes.
small claims for a different.
I don't get radar.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. And with further questions, I would direct them at staff. Thank you. With that, we need to move on to new business item number, or letter, I should say, D, tree removal request at 255 Costa Mesa Street. I'll let staff lead off, and then if there's any public comment, I'll follow with that.
Once again, good evening, Commissioners. This is a request to remove a tree at 355 Costa Mesa Street. The tree is an American sweet gum, liquid amber. The height of the tree is approximately 30 feet. The right-of-way has been discerned to be 5 feet, and this tree was last maintained in March 14th, 2013. You can see here a view of the tree in front of the residence. The view facing east, it's a healthy tree. The tree's been deemed as healthy and in good shape with no significant disease, damage, or die-off. Once again, here's a view facing west, actually two views. So the other's from across the street looking west, southwest. And here is a sample of the trees on the street and the continuity and number of trees that are on the street.
Thank you, Mr. Lindeman. Are there any questions from those on the dais before we get to public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll let the applicant speak.
Thank you for your time. My name is Jim Coleman. I'm a resident at 355 Costa Mesa Street, and I'll be very brief. I'm having similar problems to what were described at the other area. I have two pictures that I brought. The tree is a healthy tree, and it's a very attractive tree, but there's a couple of dark sides to that. And if we could display the green picture I had first.
Just a moment, sir.
We planted this tree many years ago ourselves, just because we like the seasonal beauty of it, and we didn't realize that there are a couple of dark sides to that. And I don't know whether you can see this picture. It was taken about a month or two ago. Just shows the density and cluster of the seed pods there. This happens every year. There are thousands of these seed pods. They come down on the ground, hundreds per day. We have to sweep them up. They get stuck in our lawn. We have to crawl around on our lawn and pick them up. Our neighbors complain about them. They're a hazard in the street. And this does go on for months. It's not a daily thing. It just on and on and on. So if you could switch to the other slide, I'll try and be brief here. Could you turn it over, please? No, one more time. No, 180 degrees. No, it's still upside down.
Good.
Thank you very much. All right. So this is a Google Maps picture that I happened to capture this morning. And at the time they took it, you can see the tree in the upper right and the street under the tree. My point here was the diagonal damage to the dirt that you can see in the front lawn. There was a root from the tree that grew and grew and grew all the way across. And I went out and I measured that this morning with a 25-foot measure, which wasn't long enough. That root was 27 feet from the tree, cutting across two halves of my lawn. It got to the point where the lawnmower would chunk off pieces of it, and I had to remove that. And of course, that damaged my watering. It damaged the sidewalk.
Well,
and continuous problem. And I want to thank you for saying that you're organizing a study of this type of tree in the city. I think the tree would be perfect in a park area. I don't believe it's appropriate to a residential street area. Just the shallow roots and the mess all the time. Thank you.
thank you. This time, are there any questions from the commission? Okay.
Again, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I do have the same questions for the city about this, about root pruning. Was that done, and if so, when? And then also root barrier. Was that installed at this address, and if so, when?
Well, there was significant construction done in that area to curb, gutter, and sidewalk in 2013. Without looking at my documents, I believe it was 2013. At that time, the roots would have been trimmed back. However, in the city's Costa Mesa inventory, it does not show that the root barrier was installed because that would have been done as part of an engineering project by a city hired contractor who may have installed the root barrier. More than likely, they would do that at that time. It has been since 2013, so a root barrier could be a viable option to reinsert at that location. And that would address the roots going, the shallow roots going across the yard would be cut off and no longer growing.
So the roots would be pruned and a root barrier installed, and then the current root that, as he showed in his front lawn, that would be his responsibility to take care of that if he wanted to?
Correct.
I've already done that.
Oh, okay.
It was just a huge job. But that won't take care of the seed pods.
Right.
Correct. And in reference to those seed pods, what potential interventions could the city do to either eliminate or decrease these massive amounts of seeds? He's saying there's hundreds of these. Do we have any potential options there?
Well, yeah, the liquid ambers are known for the quantity of seed pods that they drop, and fruit suppression treatments could be applied. There's no guarantee that they will eliminate the situation completely. They would more than likely reduce the number of pods, and this would take several months, maybe 2 seasons. While it would get a treatment, we would wait 90 days to 6 months, apply another treatment, and that could reduce the number of seed pods.
When you say could reduce, maybe you could give me an example. Was this done on any trees in Costa Mesa recently within the last year?
Yes, we have begun treatments per resident request to try to reduce the number of seed pods. That has not been long enough. It's a rather new science. The old science for decreasing the tree pods or the seed pods was to spray the liquid amber trees, which we no longer do for obvious reasons. We don't want to go around spraying chemicals. So now it's done through an injection, and the injection takes months to go through. It goes up into the leaves and does its work kind of like medicine in a flu shot type.
Okay, so it's unknown if that would be effective or not effective?
Well, the science has been tested elsewhere. I cannot say. In Costa Mesa, we have not had a success yet, but we do have several trees that are in the process of the fruit suppression.
And so in those places it was done, was it complete suppression of those fruit pods, or was it 50% reduction in number? Do you remember offhand?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ashendorf?
Yes, 2 points of clarification. One is, Mr. Lindeman, is this the first request by the Coleman family?
Yes, this would be the first time this has been brought to the commission. Although there are work orders, and they have contacted the city on a previous just maintenance work.
All right, and the second comment was that I thought I heard Mr. Coleman state that they planted the tree, but the report says that it's a city-owned tree. Could you clarify that?
That tree would have been planted by the city. I don't believe the resident applicant planted that tree. I believe that tree was part of the development at that time. The tree appears to be close in age to the actual house.
I was told that it was the city property because of where it was located in the access next to the street.
Thank you.
Yes, it is definitely in the city right away.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rutherford?
Thank you, Chair Erickson. I just wanted to ask a clarifying question. So unlike the previous applicant, this applicant has no retaining wall or any other measures implemented so far?
At this time, I could not determine exactly why the sidewalk was replaced. It may have been related to this tree back in 2013, or there was quite a bit of sidewalk that was done as part of a sidewalk and a driveway replacement project. As you can see in some of the photos or out on the street, there was quite a significant number of feet of curb, gutter, and driveway replaced as part of that project. Other than that, we have not had a large amount of work, or we have not received any sewer line video or photos of property damage other than what you have just seen tonight.
Cool. Thank you, Bruce. I just want to touch on a point that Vice Chair McNabb made, just at how important the green infrastructure is in the city. And so if this tree is not at that point yet where it absolutely must be replaced, where there can still be preventative measures implemented, I think that would be a prudent thing to do for the city.
Would that mean you'd put the barrier in?
Yes, as well as fruit suppression.
Correct. The city will work with the resident to install root barrier on the sidewalk side, and then 2 years from now, we can evaluate the street side, as well as put this on a list for a fruit suppression program. And it would also we could be added to the pruning for this year's schedule, which might reduce the number of seed pods by taking off some of the outer branches and minors to maybe address that.
Okay. Seeing no requests in queue, I'd like to see if there's, you're back.
Sorry.
Okay.
I just wanted to quickly ask you to follow that up. What would be your recommendation for the commission to approve to best preserve the tree going forward with this preventative measure?
In this particular case, I would recommend the root barriers, the fruit suppression program, and to see if we can make sure that we get it trimmed this year.
Thank you. Chair Erickson, I'd just like to move to approve the maintenance director's recommendation.
Fantastic. Is there a second?
Yep, I'll second.
All right. I see a motion made by Commissioner Rutherford and seconded by Commissioner DeSico to approve the denial of the Category 1 and also make recommendations on mitigation in the form of fruit suppression as well as root barriers.
And reevaluate after 2 years to make sure these are effective for the resident.
Yes. Okay.
Do we have a time frame for those two actions?
Good question.
No, I can't commit, but it will be very soon. Staff will work with the resident to put this on a schedule. And I'm roughly going to say that the root barrier could begin within the next 30 days. The fruit suppression may take a little longer, as it is part of a program where we would rather have the contractor come in and treat several trees at once than call him out and pay the fee for a mobilization for one single tree.
And I'll remind the applicant, there's also a formal process for re-entering this complaint in a year, should no progress get made or you feel the need. With that, I'll close comments. We do have a motion, and I'd like to call for a question.
The motion carries 6-1 with Commissioner Fay voting no.
Okay. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Erickson?
Yes.
We'd like to request a short break just to address, because we moved the item, the order of the items, we have to address some technological challenges and
Okay.
changes. So if we can just request a very brief break to address them with you.
Okay, let's,
Should I announce at this time that I'm going to recuse myself, or do I wait till the recess?
We'll wait until the item.
okay, let's take a 3-minute recess. Okay. All right, I'd like to bring this meeting back to order. At, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for your patience as we dealt with that little technical difficulty. We're back online here and are now entertaining the agenda item around the removal request for Avenue of the Arts. This time I want to introduce Minua Shabi from the city, as well as, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening. At this time, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote as I have conducted state business at the Avenue of the Arts Hotel. So thank you. I'll be departing at this time and back for the director's report. Thank you.
Okay.
And Chair Erickson, I'd like to do the same as it is near my place of employment. So I'll be back also at the end for the closing. Thank you.
Thank you. And pardon me for moving through the introductions there. City staff, may I proceed and introduce our guests?
Good evening, Commissioners.
All right.
Today's final tree removal request, and I would like to thank the folks from the Avenue of the Arts Hotel for their patience tonight. This is a tree removal request for 3350 Avenue of the Arts. The Tribute Hotel ownership is requesting to remove 14 trees growing in the city right-of-way located in front of the Avenue of the Arts Hotel. The request is to accommodate a proposed 150-room hotel expansion and remodel. The types of trees are not requested to be removed are 9 Palo Verde trees, 1 fern pine, 4 Canary Island pines. The height of the trees varies from 10 feet to 40 feet, and in some of the pictures, they actually look closer to 50 or 60 feet. These trees are not maintained by the city, or are they in the city inventory, because they are maintained through the TAD agreement, which is a Theater of the Arts District agreement that was set forth in 2011 and amended several times since then. Here's a photo of the trees, of some of the proposed trees from across the street in the Argos Plaza when you're looking directly at the roundabout. This is also from across the street from the Argos Plaza, looking more particularly at some of the pine trees. Here we are looking from across the street at the Palo Verde tree. This is another view of the Palo Verde trees facing north while looking south. And here we are of the pine trees facing north. And here is looking south at some of the Palo Verde trees and the landscaping that is currently there. Also notice here down the median, we do have the palm trees. Here's a view once looking south where you can actually see all of the pine trees, the Palo Verde trees, and the palm trees down the city-owned center median. This is a print of the Avenue Art Hotel in its current condition, and you can see over to the left side of the screen is where Avenue of the Arts is, and that all the trees that are requested to be removed are located. Here is a photograph of the plans of the proposed tree replacement strategy. The applicant would like to install 16 Palo Verde trees, 7 Mexican fan palm trees, 19 mitigation trees will be donated to the city to be the tree species will be decided by the city arborist, and the location will also be decided by the city arborist. Here's a picture of some of the proposed Mexican fan palms. In the lower photo, this is the city-owned roundabout. You can see that there are Mexican fan palms already in the existing landscaping. And this is a picture of the new construction project at 580 Anton. This is standing on the Avenue of the Arts and the corner of Anton. And that is the Mexican fan palms that they use to surround the new complex. Lower picture is a current state of a Palo Verde tree, and to the right, this is just a very vibrant and green Palo Verde tree that looks very healthy. And that would conclude my presentation. We also have the folks from the Tribute Hotel, the Avenue Arts Hotel, and their landscape architecture who would also like to speak.
Good evening. My name is Adam Linneman with WATG Landscaping. Real quick, just a few more comments to add to what Mr. Lindeman had to say. Here is a plan of the proposed landscape. As you can see, we are trying to maintain connectivity to the future museum across the street, and frame views outward towards the plaza across the street as well. And the trees that would be placed inside of the easement would help frame that, and they would be the species, as he's mentioned, that are currently in the median, and then the Palo Verdes that are on site. And so here is a survey or a inventory plan of where these trees exist currently on site inside the easement. We are now showing that we're going to remove all of them, and then this is what we would replace back with, which would be the Palo Verdes and the Mexican fan palms. Again, placed in a way to help aesthetically please the landscape, the new landscape, but then also bring connectivity to the surrounding the site. And then we had just a couple quick renderings of what that is going to look like when everything's all said and done. So, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Before we move forward, is there any other comments from city staff? Okay. With that, I'll turn it over to the commissioner if there are any questions, comments, and so on. Commissioner Fay.
Hi. Thanks for coming. I know how much work goes into these things, so always exciting to see new improvements in our neighborhoods. I'm wondering about kind of open spaces that are going to be open to the community on the new development. And I know you're here from the landscape side of things, not necessarily the full development plans, but in removing those trees, are there any of those pockets of where you're planning on putting in new trees that are a little bit more open space, open to the community, that create shade? Because in that image that you just showed us, it doesn't quite look like that.
Currently, the way this is all planned out, the trees that we would have there are shade. Palo Verde is a decent shade tree. It would not necessarily take away from existing shade, but it would just kind of keep it back to the way it was. The thing is, we wanted to bring that connection from everything going on across the street. And if they're too big of specimens, too much, you're creating a wall, a screen that's keeping the experience from both sides, the permeability, if you will. So, yeah.
So just to clarify, and I haven't seen kind of the full development plans, but it looks like most of the trees that you're planning on putting in and those spaces are really just kind of filler space. They're not really any spaces where you would imagine visitors at the hotel or people in the area coming and sitting down under a tree and reading a book.
No, this would be just a pure streetscape.
Okay.
Does that conclude your comments?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Keep going. Go ahead. Go to the next.
Commissioner DeSico?
Again, thanks for coming. I like the intentionality that you picked in potentially replacing these trees, choosing like for like. I appreciate that, as well as trying to match other species that are in the area to go with the same theme of that area. I really do appreciate that thought process. I did have a question, and help me understand why none of those trees, because it doesn't look to me like the location of the new trees is all that different from the old ones. Help me understand why not one of those trees could stay. Is it a completely different location we're planting these new trees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're off back to the, as you can see here, they're off. The new trees, the mass majority of them are off to the right here.
So there's not one tree out of all of those that overlaps with the new proposed?
No, it's just, it would be too hard to save them. during construction.
Right, and that was going to be my next question. Is it an accessibility with construction issue of trying to preserve those? Because it looked like a similar area, but that was my thought.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. I did have a question for our city as far as if this was approved and that there were additional trees in other areas as the 3-to-1 ratio would not be kept on site, who is in charge of making sure that that does happen, that that business does eventually pay for those trees and those trees do get planted somewhere on city property? Who's ultimately responsible to make sure that does happen?
Commissioner, well, that would be maintenance services and the city arborist, and it does state that somewhere in here that it does not move forward unless we receive the check or the actual trees. Okay. And I would also to answer one of your previous questions to assist. If you look at the plans of the original and then what the proposed are, part of the issue there is they're completely moving the driveway and the approach to the roundabout that they have in their foyer or their reception area. And it looks very similar, but if you look at the two plans closely, you can see there's quite a bit of construction because there's a frontage road currently that is no longer in there when you come in from a little bit north of their property.
Right. Right, yeah, it's definitely a different design. It just did look like there was some overlap, but I do understand the construction needs of trying to work around 1 or 2 trees to save, how that could potentially be a hindrance to construction. I did have one last question for the city, and this is probably due to my ignorance of the TAD agreement. That was actually news to me, and that's something I need to research. So in light of me not knowing much about that, why is this even brought to us? Why can't they just do what they want, considering this is in an area where these trees are not in our inventory of our city, and there is an agreement that that they will be maintaining the trees in that area?
That is Commissioner Secchio, that is a very good question. It is so that the city is aware and all removals and replacements are official and documented. Some of the minor landscape that some of the hotels and the South Coast Plaza do around their property and on their parkways, we don't really get too involved with. But on the larger scale, the trees, we request that we be informed of the removals and the replacements so that we know sort of what's up. I mean, if you've been over to the, what they call it, South Coast West now, used to be Crystal Court, they have a wonderful planting, but when they do large removals, they contact us to let us know so that we can kind of be aware. What we don't want is somebody coming in and planting something that is invasive or could be considered a hazard later.
And is that written in the TAD agreement for those bigger projects that they do need to come to us to get that approval?
It's been a long time since I've gone that deep into that, but I believe there is a large section that is maintenance. There is a link on the city's website that I recommend that you all, if you are interested into that, you go into that. And there's a portion that is probably 30 to 40 pages that are just maintenance and maintenance agreements. And there's also quite a few amendments to that document.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Erickson, Commissioners, I just wanted to expand a little bit on where the project is in the process. It is currently still in review. The first step was basically a general plan conformity that the Planning Commission considered at their last meeting, and that's for the vacation of a 5-strip of what's called a sidewalk and landscape easement along this property, as well as all properties on Avenue of the Arts and the Anton Boulevard properties. So there's an existing 25-foot easement. That easement is part of the reason this project was presented to this commission. And the project is scheduled to be reviewed by the zoning administrator in November. Any conditions or comments that this commission has would become a condition of approval of the project, and the planning department will follow up with those conditions.
Thank you for clarifying. Commissioner Ashendorf?
Thank you, and thank you for having us part of this process. It really is valuable to all of us here. But one of the things you mentioned Mr. Lindeman, is that with the 19 trees for the in-kind that we're looking at, the recommendation will be made by the arborist. Will the arborist recommendation be coming back to the commission for placement of those trees?
Thank you, Commissioner Ashendorf. That is a great question. In the past, usually it's just a 3-to-1 replacement, and we get, we put a tree in and we get 2
Right.
trees. And in this situation, that is a good question. With larger projects like this, we have not really addressed that question. We could definitely bring that back and get recommendations, because since we're going to have 19 trees, this could be recommended that we want to use it as an Earth Day project in a park.
Right.
Something we could try to, or if a commissioner had a certain area that was lacking, we could try to organize and work with the commission on that. And I think that is a wonderful suggestion that we should look more into.
And that shouldn't, as long as, if this moves forward, it's not tied into holding up this project, just to make sure that we have a voice in the other trees. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Back to Commissioner Fay and then Commissioner Rutherford.
Yes. So back to my earlier question a little bit more. Could you explain kind of some of the process that you went through in evaluating whether any of that landscape space around the development would be a candidate for something like open space or some small type of placemaking? I'm thinking a lot about, of course, a lot more space that was done down at the Lido House Hotel outside of the old city council, but even just little pocket places where, we're up here representing our community to try to get as much open space as we can, as much places where the public can come and enjoy that space. And it just seems to me like, gosh, wouldn't it be great if a couple of those corners were a great place to put a Cape Cod Adirondack chair for one of your guests or some of the public to sit and enjoy the music that's happening across the foyer?
Great question. As you can see, let me pull up. This is a section moving across the proposed design. And as you can see, there's an elevation change. And because of this, because of bringing guests up to the porte cochere, we have to allow for accessibility for ADA and for just pedestrians, access. And because of this, because of the elevation change, unfortunately, we lose a little bit of that streetscape, that buffer zone between the street, the sidewalk, and the property. So unfortunately, it's just a matter of design that the way things have gone, this is what we've done. And we also have, if I can just scroll back, a lot of this landscape is, again, highly adaptable, California natives, low water use. So a lot of this area is also retaining some of the site. So a lot of water is being collected here. Again, it's more about aesthetics, not necessarily the aesthetic where you get to use it, unfortunately, but we are using it multi-purpose instead of it just being a green screen between something. So.
Okay, thank you. And then also just in the existing, so you've got the existing median there. Is that still going to be, it looks like in the new plans, a new median?
No, it's
the image that you're showing now, is that just going to be a street?
Yeah.
So there will be no median in the middle there with any planting?
No, there isn't. There's a meeting there with.
Commissioner, there is no proposal to change any of the landscaping in the median. That remains as it is.
Okay.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
So that's not the median where the current trees are located? Sorry, it's hard to tell because it's on two separate landscape.
Oh, so is this set on Google Earth?
No, I'm looking at the slide that you're showing. Well, the one that you have up here with existing it shows existing median.
That's
at the bottom.
Existing to remain.
That's existing and remains, and it's not where the current trees are.
No,
the current trees are where the red line is.
Located more where it's actually colorful. It's where it would say main entry just to the left of that and to the right of that.
Okay, got it.
Sorry for the confusion.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Rutherford?
Thank you, Chair Erickson. Thank you to everybody for staying late tonight. I just wanted to ask, just trying to get an understanding of the consideration that was made when the project started and when these initial conversations were happening, what consideration was given at that early stage in the planning of this to the existing trees? And what is the reasoning for either prioritizing keeping those trees or not prioritizing keeping those trees?
I believe that was driven by creating something new. And unfortunately, when you create something new, everything can't be saved around it. It's just pragmatic, unfortunately. And the way that everything kind of came together, it just doesn't allow for everything to remain exactly the same, because we don't have enough space the approach would have to go all the way around the trees. You'd be cutting way too much into where the potential hotel is going to be. So it's a matter of, okay, how the design goes or the existing goes. So unfortunately, you just got to make a decision. And we made a decision that the existing trees, we would then try to bring everything back as much as we could.
And I'll add, if I'm understanding it correctly, that this new design is going to create a lot more, I think you said, permeability or access visually between the two streets, whereas now we do have some taller trees.
Those pinuses, like you said, were close to 50 feet.
Yeah.
And they're, roughly 15 to 20 feet wide. That's going to block any kind of view out towards the museum and the plaza.
Yeah, the newer design seems to invite people across the street back and forth between the hotel and the art museum, which sounds excellent. Commissioner Rutherford?
Thank you, Chair Erickson. Just to wrap up my comments, I just wanted to ask that question because obviously there's a lot of economic activity going on in this part of the city and in the Sebeke area as well, which I don't live too far from the area, so I'm very supportive of that and excited to see that for the city. I think it's a boon to the city. But the reason I asked you that was, this commission, our job is to be stewards of parks, stewards of the open space, stewards of the environmental features in the city. So it's, just as a friendly comment, it's not a great argument to say, we're going to kill healthy trees for aesthetic concerns. I don't think it's a great argument. But that being said, it's not going to be, a reason for me to hold this up. I think that, as Director Aguilar had mentioned via email, there's going to be opportunities with the streetscapes and medians plan for us to think about, as a commission, a holistic set of standards moving forward, such as especially when they're not going to do the full 3-to-1 replanting on site, maybe requiring a greater replanting off site, because this public health infrastructure is really important. So I just wanted to wrap it up by saying that.
At this time, I'd just like to enter a motion before doing. I think we've discovered something that could be a model moving forward when it comes to this excess of trees. And I'm actually excited by the idea that perhaps the public could have an input, again, through the Costa Mesa app, to know that there's an excess inventory of trees, and perhaps one could go in front of their house or at their neighborhood park. So with that, I'm excited about the new plans for the hotel, and I'd like to make a motion to approve the item as presented.
I'll second.
Chair Erickson, I just wanted to address one thing, Commissioner Fahey's comment about the open space. My understanding is it might not be directly on Avenue of the Arts, but in the back facing the lakes, there's going to be an event space with some landscaping. Maybe you can touch on that, which will increase that would be, if you were going over there, much like the Lido House, where you can go in and then you go out, and then it's not out front. You have to actually enter and go to the bar or go to the public areas. And it's my understanding that they have a large green event space, which will be active. There's going to be some seating back there, and you'll be facing the ponds, which currently are very underutilized. It's really pretty. If you've ever gone into the buildings and gone to the back, that's an underutilized area of our city. I think it's kind of a little gem that's hidden, and I think this is going to open it up to people who are at the museum or they walk across the street from any of the events, and I go, oh, beautiful. So I think that maybe we're losing a little bit on the front, but I think we're going to be gaining a lot on the back there.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor, but there's a gentleman who wants to speak, and I'll allow it.
I think you covered that very well. I wanted to just, I'm Paul Sanford. I'm CEO for the hotel group, and have worked with the city since 2009 when we bought the property out of foreclosure. And first of all, I want to thank the city staff. We've had tremendous experience in developing a four-diamond hotel in a city that we didn't know if it was ready to support it. I felt it was, but it was scary for me at the time, and it's been a huge success. we believe in Costa Mesa, and we believe in the North Costa Mesa specific plan, and particularly what's happening in Avenue of the Arts. And we as a company realize that it's the only opportunity for urban Orange County to have a luxury neighborhood that is accessible, and we think that's what Orange County needs. So to Commissioner Fay, I think you brought up some excellent points, and I apologize for not bringing this to your attention or putting more focus on what you've just gone over. But the 4 parcels that we call parcel A, B, C, and D are all on the Lakes Association land. And there's a common area land that would be behind our hotel. It's behind 580 Anton, behind the Marriott, that's also got a wonderful new Starwood Capital just bought that property and is going to be doing some work, and then 3400. I am president of that association, and currently we have plans. We're not ready to take that to the city, but we're looking at taking that public space, and Commissioner Fay, that is our public space that we use and our guests use, and we've got a plan to further increase the uses of that, taking it out of the 1980s when it was built and adding in some deck areas and some seating areas and some planting areas. So it's not just going to be a walkway with a lawn and a fountain, but it's actually going to be activated as public space for the residents of Costa Mesa, our hotel guests, and the residents of the 2 apartment buildings and the Marriott suites. So although I'm not ready to present that, I think that we have some great solutions going forward with that. Dwayne Browder and Associates out of Los Angeles is the firm that's working on that with us. So just want to make sure that I'm sensitive to that also. I think that it would be there. I love trees. I am that type of person. And I don't know how to get Avenue of the Arts activated without using the plan for pedestrians and for enjoyment, without doing the plan that WAT is presented to us with us. Our goal has always been to activate that, to get the walkability between the new residences, the luxury residences, the hotel, the art museum, the bridge over to South Coast Plaza. I can tell you finally in closing, the hotel's been massively successful. We're doing this because we're too busy. And our tribute is what I would call a lower tier 4 diamond, and the plan is, well, WATG does nothing but fabulous properties. So we took it away from our previous architect at Mino and Claire at the time, and now Jennifer knew, and we brought them in to really put a world-class property with that. So thank you for your consideration. I hope I've been able to help clarify.
Thank you. At this time, again, we do have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. I'd like to call for a question. Didn't go through.
The motion carries 502 with Vice Chair McNabb and Commissioner Frager recused.
Thank you, city staff. Could someone go get them? Thank you. Thank you. All right. With that, I'd like to keep things moving. We're on to item number 10 of the agenda tonight, which is the maintenance manager's report. With that, I'll turn it over to city staff. Thank you again for being here tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is the Maintenance Manager's Report for, well, actually September and October. Mesa Verde Library Playground was completed. We had a grand opening. This was, here we go. This project is installation of the city's first musical playground was completed in October. The instruments are interactive pieces of art that will encourage a full sensory experience for children that visit the library. The project included the demolition and removal of ivy landscaping. The instruments were installed on concrete pads and laid out in a semicircle. Staff working together with the Friends of the Library had designed this. And I would like to mention that our lead maintenance worker that was involved on this is also an artist, and he participated in Art Adventure, so he was really excited to take the lead on this. A decomposed granite surface was added for us, and a lot of new landscaping was installed for aesthetics. And the official ribbon cutting was celebrated on October 9th, which many of you attended. And here is some of the before and the demo that occurred. And that's what we were dealing with before, was just some ivy, some very outdated lava rocks, and kind of just plants that had been there for years. Here's some of the project when it's underway. And this was all done by internal city maintenance staff. There's some of the new landscaping. The irrigation was altered to provide more efficient watering of the area. Here's the instruments when they are installed. And there is a picture of the ribbon cutting ceremony. Oh, Liz is still not here. Well, Liz is in the picture. Commissioner McNabb, I'm sorry. 2019, we just completed the sports field renovations. Maintenance Services recently completed the annual renovation of the city's 37 acres of sports fields. That includes Balearic, Fairview Developmental Center, Jack Hammett Sports Complex, Luke Davis Fields, T. Winkle Athletic Complex. Here we have some dethatching. That often happens at the baseball fields and on the Jack Hammett Stadium. Top dressing being spread. Where there is excessive damage due to either water or aggressive sports players, with the grass is completely removed and replaced with sod. The infield surfaces are done annually, and this includes rebuilding of the pitching mounds, batter boxes, new bases, and replacement of all the rubbers. Here's a picture of one that is just resting and near completion. T. Winkle Athletics Complex, the sports complex. Also, we removed and replaced the trees at that location during the renovation period. There were purple leaf plum trees, which had they were very short-lived trees, and they were very pretty when they were initially installed, but then they no longer would leaf out for the past 2 seasons. So those trees were removed and replaced with eastern red buds. These trees are more drought tolerant and will provide a similar colored reddish purple leaf and beautiful purple flowers. There's a picture of the trees. You know, they grew to their size, but right in this picture, they should have leaves. Not a single one of them leafed out this year. So the decision was made to remove these before they started falling over, because one had just fallen over. And here are the young trees. In the next 3 to 5 years, they will grow larger and look very similar to what was there. They're fast growing, and they will only go to about the same size as the trees that were previously there. Concrete construction project was part of our CIP project, where we replace curb gutter throughout the city. This year, we managed to include several parks and park sidewalks and special little projects that we had been trying to get on the CIP project for quite a while, and that includes the Small Dog Park concrete work, Jordan Park, Schiffer Park, T. Winkle Park, and Wacom Park. Here is in the Small Dog Park at Bark Park. There was a large tree that had lifted. If you had ever been out on the concrete there, you could see it. We had been patching and putting hot asphalt on that area for many years, and the concrete there was just due for a complete replacement. There it is now. There should have been a better before picture, because it was very uneven there, and now you can see the little dogs are happy, and the table sits very level now. And it's heavily used by I would like to say our older people that hang out in the park quite a bit, and they enjoy it because of the shade of those trees, which we managed to save and expand the concrete space around the base to hopefully allow those trees to grow a little larger. Schiffer Park, the picnic shelter, as you can see here, the concrete was very uneven and had actually become dangerous. We had done many grinds, hot asphalt ramps, and it was becoming very unsightly. So that was broken out and the concrete at that area was replaced. The existing old barbecues were cut out and we managed to also get funding to put those back in with new barbecues. You can see the roots, invasive roots from the very large trees that are very near that, the cracked concrete and the aging barbecue in this picture. And there is the new concrete. You don't see the barbecues there, but you do see the poles. After it was done, it was cleaned up and then the barbecues were installed. Oh, there's the barbecues. And the tables returned. Wakeham Park concrete around the circle of rocks and sand, the entrance. This has been an issue for us for quite a few years. The wood has been rotted. We've been pulling out these posts one at a time, leaving a very sharp edge scalloped concrete that really was not safe or friendly for kids to play on as it was originally designed. Here you can see the removal of them. You can also see that scalloped concrete where we had to, over time, pull them out one at a time. The wood was completely rotted, and sometimes there was rebar just sticking out, so we were constantly having to go over there and try to make it safe. And there it is now, nice, safe concrete all the way around. Tewinkle Lakes wood bridge repairs. Well, as many of you know, Tewinkle Lakes, the lower lakes, got the very nice new bridges installed as part of a CIP project last year. The upper bridges are scheduled and are included in the CIP list, but funding was not available, and they are also aging. So you can see some of the damage. Maintenance staff went in and stabilized the bridges, added new supports, some new wood and bracing. There's a before and after where you can see the post is near the rotted wood, has been replaced, and it's going to be able to last us a few more years. And this also was done using wood that was salvaged from the previous bridge projects. Memorial donations. Staff completed the installation of 2 separate memorials previously approved by the PAX Commission. James Daniel Seaton Memorial at Tewinkle Park. He had a tree installed and this bench was dedicated to him and his family in his passing. Florence Welk Memorial at Smallwood Park. This was a new piece of concrete was added, and the bench was also added, paid for by the family in memory of their mother. The City Hall received its memorial tree replacement. Not that the City Hall has passed away, but the tree that was previously the memorial tree had died. And so it was, for many years it was called the Charlie Brown tree at Snoopy. It was very brown, had been taken away. Now there is a new tree that hopefully will be ready to go, and we have it all installed for Snoopy, and it'll be our tree, and hopefully it will continue to grow, be healthy, and be decorated annually. Decorative bike rack installation continues. Staff continues the installation of decorative bike racks at designated locations. And most of these, several of these are done through the grant. Moon Park got its bike rack that we have had requests for. Tewinkle Park Tennis Center, Jack Hammett Sports Complex, Angels Playground, Moon Park. These bike racks support the city's active transportation plan, are intended to promote an increase in the proportion of trips accomplished by walking and biking. And in the picture, as I stated, this is Moon Parks. Here are the decorative bike racks at the tennis center. The tennis players were very excited by this, and these were paid for by the grant. You can see their tennis rackets is pretty cool. The guys were real proud. This is the decorative Jack Hammett Sports Complex. They got little basketballs. We wish they were soccer balls, but we've got basketballs. We're looking to get those replaced in the future with soccer balls or footballs. The grant was specified these. No, I want basketball down at the DRC. And these are the decorative bike racks at Tewinkle Park Angels Playground. I would like to say that we were also waiting to get some concrete parking blocks so we can continue with this project in the near future. Newport Frontage Road, we just received a pallet of the concrete parking blocks where we'll be installing bike racks at Newport Frontage Road in front of the Side Street Cafe and what was formerly the Hub, as well as bike racks, public bike racks will be available in the parking lot behind Goat Hill and that section of the alley that the city owns that parking lot. And that concludes my presentation for this month.
Thank you first. That was a great presentation. Really appreciate it. It's fun to see all those bike racks. Any questions or comments from the commission? Yes, Commissioner DeSico.
I just had one quick question on there in reference to the baseball playing surfaces. You said so every year we replace the pitching mound, all the bases, and all the dirt in that area, or what is done yearly, and how is it determined that it's necessary to do all of that?
Well, it's done with lasers. They laser shoot the fields, particularly the hardball field, but the softball fields as well. They're laser shot, and we do not remove all the dirt, but we bring in new dirt. We till the dirt, bring in dirt, get it back to its correct level, and the pitching mounds, as you can imagine, get worn down quite a bit in one season, so they require a little bit more extensive work. But yes, every year we do not remove all the dirt, but we add, replace, level, laser shoot, and replace all the pads.
Okay. Because that seems like a lot of work, and it's determined that's necessary to do every year?
Yes, I mean, if the condition were to remain, also much of that is part of the youth sports program. We get a lot of assistance through some of the youth sports programs, the user groups, and it is determined to keep it at a certain level because we do keep the hardball field at college level baseball. Because oftentimes college do play over there, and the softball groups are very specific as well, and they have parameters that we try to keep for safety's sake, because any uneven surfaces running on the baseline could cause a hazard.
Right, and to that point, when it does rain, what is our city's policy? Last year we had a lot of rain, and that really affected the playability, especially, I mean, of soccer fields, but especially of these baseball fields, because that dirt area seems like it's very sensitive and it takes a while to dry out. And like you spoke about, those uneven surfaces are kind of a hazard. What is our city's policy either before it rains, while it's raining, or after it's raining to make sure we maintain this level of quality that you're saying that we put into these fields?
Well, weather is a tough thing to predict, but if we know weather is coming, we will close down the fields. We will let user groups play right up until it has rained. Park ambassadors will, as soon as rain is determined, they will close the fields or stop that. Moisture meters are used on almost all our sports fields before we allow play to begin. As you can imagine, we often have unhappy sports users who say it hasn't rained in 3 days, but if the moisture meters read overly moist, we will not allow the fields to open.
Is there a way to prevent more moisture specifically, I mean, for the softball and baseball in those dirt areas? Because again, those seem to be the longest to dry out. I mean, just my experience with baseball and softball at the professional level, they'll put the tarps out when it's raining. Is that something that we've evaluated possibly doing if we know there's going to be a significant amount of moisture that may close the field for multiple days? Is that something we've evaluated doing?
Actually, Commissioner, we do that. We cover especially on the hardball field, it is covered. I can't say 100% with 100% certainty what we do on the softball field, but I can definitely get back to you with that information. And we also have some projects going at the hardball field with user groups to expand a little bit of storage, their capability, user groups' capabilities, and the city's ability to store maintenance equipment at Tewinkle Park hardball field.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rutherford.
Thank you, Chair Erickson. Just want to ask a quick question. I'm just following up the comment made by Flo Martin in public comments at the last commission meeting about the benches at Wilson Park and how they were removed at a previous point. Maybe somebody had their own agenda there, but just wondering if maybe you could take a look at that and just see if there's some improvements that could be made there.
Thank you, Commissioner Rutherford. We will definitely look into that. As you know, that is a controversial location. Issues have altered. Thank you to Justin Martin and all of our staff for working so hard to address some of the issues that the city had during that period. It seems that things may have been reduced, and that is a good point. We should possibly reevaluate the use of Wilson Park.
Thank you, staff and commissioners, for that portion of the meeting. I want to move on now to item number 11, which is the Parks and Community Services Director's Report.
Thank you, Chair Erickson and members of the commission. And thank you to Bruce and his staff for keeping our parks and our facilities in such great shape so that we're able to offer a wide range of programs and activities. Excuse me. The city's fall session of recreation and community services activities and programs is now underway. With hundreds of all-age offerings and classes, trips, aquatics programs, and community events like we've reported. The School Year Rocks program returned last month and has been showing strong with nearly 850 students registered between the 11 school sites. New and returning program staff continue to be trained on their roles so that they can be best prepared for potential challenges that can sometimes come with the daily environment of after-school care for children. The Youth Sports and Fitness Program is currently offering free co-ed youth volleyball, which has 75 participants. Co-ed cheer and basketball is offered in the winter, with games taking place on Saturdays at the Downtown Recreation Center, and registration for that is open. The mobile recreation program continues to pop up in neighborhoods and at various community events throughout the fall season. Current locations include Shalimar Park, Pamela Lane neighborhood, Fillmore Way neighborhood, Lions Park Event Lawn, and Schiffer Park. Between August and September, the program served nearly 400 youth. The city's team program also utilized a pool to host a back-to-school special event that focused on being social and participating in a creative set of physical challenges based around water. The teens will participate in the next event this Friday at the Lions Park Event Lawn, which is a Halloween-themed movie night. Our animal care services staff, along with our animal shelter and adoption service providers, saw nearly 200 animals come through our city animal system during the months of August and September, with 90 animals being adopted and 24 being directly reunited with their owners, which are pretty significant numbers. The fall season of youth and adult sports are back in full swing, with thousands of participants playing in organized leagues per week on city and school district fields. Portable light units at approved field sites have been placed on site over the last several weeks to allow groups to play longer into the evening with the limited daylight hours that come with the fall season. September marked the annual celebration of Active Aging Week at the Senior Center, in which the senior community had the opportunity to engage in programs and activities that promoted healthy aging, including aqua aerobics, chair volleyball, and healthy eating cooking demos. The Costa Mesa Senior Center was also awarded a grant through OCTA and successfully acquired a new 16-passenger vehicle, which will replace one of the aging vehicles for the senior mobility program. The fall is always a very busy season when it comes to events and staff. And staff have been planning, managing, and coordinating with their colleagues and community groups to host several events, many of which have been mentioned this evening. Art Venture was held at the Segerstrom Center for the Arts, and last weekend we had the Scarecrow Festival at Fairview Park. Art Venture had nearly 2,000 visitors in attendance over the course of the 2 days, and the Scarecrow Festival played host to more than 3,000 train riders. Additionally, the annual Barktoberfest was held on October 12th, with more than 500 visitors and more than 40 canines participating in the costume contest. The event had an amazing turnout and is the most successful one yet. The city is also in receipt of two awards, one of which highlights the great facilities in Costa Mesa, the other great programs. As mentioned earlier by Commissioner Fay, the 17th annual Parenting OC Award selected Costa Mesa Skate Park as the best community skate park in Orange County. The winner is selected by the readers in Parenting OC. Additionally, the League of California Cities awarded the Smart Camp program the Helen Putnam Award for Excellence, which was also mentioned earlier, highlighting the collaboration between the city and the school district. And finally, speaking of excellence, I would like to congratulate our current acting assistant city manager, Justin Martin, on his new permanent position as deputy assistant city manager with the city of Laguna Niguel. Justin's strong leadership and ability to navigate the city through challenges and opportunities will be greatly missed. We are sincerely appreciative for his time and dedication, especially to our department, to the commission, and to our team. And we wish him all the best with his new endeavor. And as a friendly reminder, the next commission meeting is scheduled to take place on Thursday, November 21st, due to the fourth Thursday of the month landing on Thanksgiving holiday. The meeting will recap the summer 2019 season for the department. This concludes my report, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Director Aguilar. Yep, there we are. Commissioner Ashendorf.
Yes, just a couple of comments. I wanted to underscore the importance of the LEAP program. There's about 80 kidlets, and anytime there's a great event in the city, they are bussed in, whether it was the Mesa Verde ribbon cutting or the library. And it's great for the children, and it's wonderful for our community to see these young people participate in so many things. I did want to share, as the liaison to the Newport Mesa School District, I've reached out and been in touch with all of the Costa Mesa trustees. And in particular, I wanted to express on behalf of Trustee Anderson, who represents the West Side, that she is extremely excited about the fact that the mobile van reaches such numbers on the west side of the community. So thank you for that. I got to tour the new van at the senior center and really pleased about that. I wanted to highlight the Sip and Paint event at the senior center. I'm not a painter, but I did attend it, and I felt quite accomplished by the end of that. Through that together, we did lose our instructor, but one of our artists who was featured not only at Art Venture but at the senior center stepped up and volunteered to fill in for us on that. And as a preview, Art Venture has already, we have our date tentatively scheduled for September 11th and 12th of 2020. So you'll be hearing more about that. We're in our planning stages. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Commissioner McNabb, Vice Chair McNabb.
Hi there. I just have a quick question as far as next month. Are we planning on doing our parks reports, annual parks reports, since there's a lot of new people? They may not be aware of that, or are we going to bump that till maybe a later date?
Thank you for bringing that up. Typically in November, we have our park district reports by our commissioners. This year, because we waited so long and we didn't assign any districts, I believe it was in June, we'll wait for that annual the report to happen then, so it's a year.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, seeing no other questions or requests in queue, I would like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for being here tonight. We'll adjourn at 8:27 p.m. Thank you.